Okay, so let's see if I can keep this under 12 minutes. I wanted to go ahead and do another installment in the Haversack Essentials series. Now, I'm going to talk about knives, mainly like knife skills. You don't have to have a lot of whittling knowledge to use a knife out in the bush, bushcraft, whatever you want to call it. I like Fieldcraft is actually a really good one. You don't have to have a big survival knife. That's not what this is about. This isn't about the belt knife. This is about a knife that you may just put in the haversack so it's always there and you've got it. Say you've got a saw or an axe, or just maybe you just have a knife. And you need to craft something. I'm going to show how I would recommend doing it, how I teach my kids or try to teach my kids. Um, uh, for safety reasons, because there's one cut that you can do most everything with, and you never usually put yourself or someone else in danger. Not to say accidents still can't happen, but I'm gonna go over this, and it's real simple. And I'm also gonna build a couple of things real quick, or craft a couple of things using this technique. And there's two things that was a classic that was when I was a kid with my very first knife, and the second was actually something I actually had to use in a real world scenario last year camping, and that was a tent stake. So the first thing that I always made when we had a fire, we were roasting hot dogs and marshmallows, and that was just a simple skewer stick or hot dog stick, whatever you want to call it. For that, you have to have green wood. So you can either use green wood for your crafting projects or dead wood. Usually you can get by with dead wood, but sometimes if you're dealing with a fire, you actually want green living wood. Not to offend the purest tree huggers out there, but green wood doesn't burn. Green wood is flexible, so you can actually there's some things that you can kind of weave together like grills and stuff to put over a fire. But to just cook a marshmallow, all you got to do is have a stick about 2 to 3 feet long, and all you got to do is skin the bark off of it. And to skin the bark off of it, you just take your stick and put with the edge away from you. You just push. The push cut is the safest cut because you never have the knife coming back toward you. I'm actually going to take this down just a little bit more. You never have the knife coming back towards you, and skinning the bark is off of a stick, any stick, is the best practice for learning this cut, practicing this cut, and getting a feel for your knife. Now, this knife that I'm using right now is just something I've been playing with for the last week or so, and it will only go so far in this video because it has limitations. It's a small knife. It can do a lot of stuff. It's a very useful knife. It's a great pocket knife, but it's what I consider the minimum for myself and what I would say other people, not necessarily this knife, but it fits my hand all the way. I don't have to take a 3-finger grip on it or anything like that. It comes all the way down here. I have all 4 fingers on it, so no matter what I'm doing, I have full control over it, and it's not going to want to flip around. It's also a lockback. That's what really caught my eye with this knife. Now, this knife will do this job just fine, and it'll clean up this end just fine, and it'll do a lot of your tasks, open boxes, stuff like that, just fine, but it's a pocket knife. And I actually would not want to put this in my haversack as a standalone knife, because for the tent peg, you're going to need something a little more substantial. I've actually been standing here messing around with this, so I actually have a tent peg right here. That's a lot bigger than the hot dog stick. The hot dog stick was pinky to pencil sized. This is thumb sized at least. And this knife is not for what I'm going to show you next. This knife is not going to do that because you actually have to push and twist. And I don't think that right here is going to hold up to that long term. But not to say you have to give up on your classic slip joints, because you have options. You have bigger knives, because they made bigger knives for bigger tasks. That was a trapper, so that was meant for like rabbits, raccoons, stuff that you're going to catch in a trap. We have a hunter, and we have another just big jackknife. I like to think of the jackknife as kind of like jack of all trades, but that's not really where jackknife came from. But they all had a purpose. You have the trapper, the stockman, the hunter. I'm not really sure what this design was, but you have this big, what they call a sheep's foot, and that is just a glorious utility blade, because I got a piece of dead wood here, and how you would harvest something is with a beaver chew, what we call a beaver chew. And again, it's just a push cut. So you come here on a 90-degree angle and just angle down, you push and you just kind of twist, and you move over and you push and you twist. And I'm really having to bear down. It's in the elbow, it's not in the shoulder. This is in the elbow. So I'm just pushing, flexing my elbow, straightening my arm, and giving it a twist, giving a wiggle. And after you go all the way around, it just snaps off. Now, this is a pretty nasty piece of dead wood. It's actually cedar, but this would make a great tent peg. So this is fine here, but I want it to be about, that's 8 inches. I want it to be up here. So I'm going to do this again. Now, if this was attached to a tree, you just do this right here. You just push and twist, push and twist, and you just move your arm around this, come over the other side, and you don't even have to go all the way through. It'll snap off. I'm just going to do that with my knee, but there it broke. Now this is really jagged, but the push cut, you're cutting away from yourself. I really stress the push cut. I'm going to go ahead and just clean this off now that we've got it. And it's all push cut. As long as no one's standing over there, this going away from you out in the space is just fine. You're not going to ruin anyone's day that way. Okay, so this actually splintered on us, but that's okay. We can actually flip this around, and this would still be an okay, but it's getting on the small side for a tent stake. But we can still make this work. Clean that up a little bit. That'll drive into the ground just fine. We can come over here and clean this up. Just kind of work your way around. And what you can eventually do is actually start going a little more level across the top of it. And that you can bang on that. Now we have to put a notch in it. So you come down about 1 inch. And you're going to go straight in. So you're not going to go up against it, and you're not going to tip back towards you. You're going to go like this. You're going to push and wiggle. You may have to do it a couple of times. Push and wiggle. Then you're going to back off a little bit. I usually don't. A lot of people will say come back 1 inch. I'm going to say come back 1/4 inch to maybe 1/2 inch. And you're going to kind of ramp back to yourself, and you're going to push. You may have to wiggle. And what you're going to do is you're going to push into your first knot cut and maybe just go back into it. And now you have what we call a 7 notch. And that will catch, 550 cord or any kind of tent line that you would usually have. And all you have to do is scale this up. Last year we went camping and we got caught in some storms, and the car was like 10 feet away, had a big family size tent, and some of the seams weren't waterproof. So I ran to the hardware store there that was local. We were about 2 hours from home. Got a huge tarp and put over it. And what I did was I just took a good size hatchet, split down some of our firewood into kindling size pieces. So probably about like this, and some of them were triangles, some of them were square. And I actually used my hatchet to just move these around and chop points on the ends, and then notched put notches in them. You can knock these out really fast. Like I've got probably 5 on the ground that I've been practicing on. and set up your tarp, your cover, whatever that you need. And knowing how to make this got me out of a pinch in real life. But they're also something that, if you bend a tent peg, you forgot your tent pegs, or hey, I can make tent pegs. I don't even have to bring them. I can make them out in the field. And I have a fire anyways. I use some of my kindling, what I don't use here, in materials I can use to start my fire and cook my dinner and stuff on. So anyways, that's just an idea. And again, I usually have my Mora, because having a light little fixed blade like this, and again, this isn't a survival knife. This is a crafting knife. That's what they make them for in Sweden, is they're crafting knives. Carpenters use them. Um, you know, a lot of the trades and stuff like that are just people, leather workers use them too. But they bypass if you're worried about the joint, the weak spot. But a little bit bigger knife, and like that, this isn't a huge knife. I don't think anyone would really feel threatened by this knife. There might other versions of these, but that's just an option. Other folders, Swiss Army knives are a good one. I actually have a Swiss Army knife, but I'm not going to pull it out now. But or I guess I could, because a Swiss Army knife offers, what's this wrong one? Swiss Army knives offer a lot of options because they have tools. They can come with saws. This one has scissors, so that gives you another cutting option. But these blades on these are really nice. This won't do a lot of heavy work. It'll do a lot of work, but it won't do a lot of heavy work. But that hot dog stick, if you baby it, it'll do the notches and make you tent stakes. You just have to slow down. Sometimes, though, you don't have that option. You want to be able to just do the job. Not rush through it, but you don't want to have to sit there and just be slow either. They have screwdrivers, an awl. That comes in real handy. And a lot of these also come with this little tiny blade, which is great if you're really wanting to get into that wood lean, or get into like pull splinters out stuff, get ticks, things like that. I've actually used these to get up under a tick and then put my thumb on it and then pop that thing off. So this is an option. It also has tweezers, but sometimes the tweezers aren't really big enough for stuff like that. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of prep work with the little blade to get those splinters out, but they're good for first aid, things like that. So a modern Swiss Army knife is a good option too. But these traditional ones, especially if you're doing a haversack, a lot of people who are into the haversack stuff seem to be more into the traditional stuff anyways, at least somewhat. I kind of split the difference. I think it's a Sil nylon poncho, and a stainless steel water bottle, but I've got a lot of other leather stuff. I've got my tomahawk, stuff like that. So anyways, there's some basic knife skills and some basic carving fieldcraft tips. Anyways, I'm going to call it on this one, and hopefully we'll be back in another week or so. Just kind of having to play it by ear. So it took me a few days longer to get this one out. So anyways, we'll see you then.